So overall, when reading the article about Asian Americans in literature, there was a lot of stuff that I never really thought about before. Like when thinking back about on books that I've read and experienced in my classrooms, I never remember any characters or any main characters being Asian Americans. And I know that's something now that we're working towards, like trying to get into our classrooms as we learn about these problems. But thinking back, like I don't know if it was where I went to school being a predominantly white area, or if it's just if more classrooms around the country were in the same boat as me. But I never really had that. I never had that exposure to Asian American characters until I got a little older. And like it said in the beginning, nowadays, compared to like the 60s or whatever it said, there are more instances where there is Asian American characters, but I can't think of any without going and looking for them specifically. I can't think of times when I personally saw them. Um, One thing that really stood out to me was the way that they talked about how to get students like to not necessarily relate, but like focus more with those. And those things were things such as like reading out loud. So they said when you read a story out loud, like you're able to connect more with it rather than just reading it by yourself and not really getting the voice that they may hear as they are in a group talking. Um, so if it is about a authentic story about an Asian American and what their lives were like and what they had to go through, if the students talk about this and read it out loud, I feel like there is a better chance that they're able to connect more than if they were to just read it by themselves. Another thing is the map situation because, like I said in the beginning, we have this tendency to clump like Asians together with like it being China, North Korea, South Korea, Japan, and that is very true. Um, I it took me. I knew that there were more areas in that umbrella of Asia, but I never really thought about it, and it took reading this article and really seeing it to realize that it's true. And like with a map situation, they said if you read a story about an Asian, to use the map and to find these countries on the globe so the children know where they're talking about rather than just being like, oh, so and so country, and then them thinking it's part of like China or something like that when in reality they have their own country. Also, the idea of bringing in someone to talk, someone who is Asian American to come in and talk and discuss questions they have or to just elaborate and talk about their experiences and what it's like and maybe even bring up the topic of like the troubles that they have to go through because of the idea that people don't necessarily know the difference between the different countries or what it's like to be an Asian American because a lot of times I think we are blind to that situation and we like we talked about in class the other week we have these stereotypes and I would be curious for someone even for myself if I was a teacher to have someone come in and really talk about it wholeheartedly and talk about their experiences and I think that's something that all students need. I think they need the exposure and they need to be able to have the resources of talking to people who have been through these experiences and that is the most authentic you can get, I believe, which brings up another point of if you're going to have stories like with Asian Americans or with blacks or anybody who is like different background or cultures you, they need to be authentic. So bringing in someone who has lived through this is almost the most authentic I think you can get. And if we're gonna bring in a story about a child from specifically China, I hope to make sure that it's actually either their story or written by someone who is from China specifically. I want the authenticity to be real and for my students to be able to grow off of that.